Let's go back to the atmosphere, though, on the coast last night. If you watched it, it was great. If you were there, David sent us a message earlier. He says, I get Dad of the Year award. I'm an Ole Miss guy. I took my MSU youngin' to the ball game. Every time they showed a crowd shot, it was just shoulder to shoulder. Just absolutely fantastic last night on the coast.
Yeah. The atmosphere right now is pouring down rain, and State needs it to rain harder at this point.
Oh. They moved up the start time to try and avoid the rain. Perhaps they are not doing that.
They've avoided nothing. It's pouring.
There's still a couple
But yeah,
thousand
you're
people
absolutely
there.
correct. Great atmosphere last night. And it's been that way, last trip to the coast in 2020, you had the same deal. And it's not a Mississippi State thing. I think if Ole Miss went down there, you'd have great crowds as well. There are fans all across the state that can't, always make the drive up to campus as much as they would like. But if you put it in their backyard, they'll sure show up. And that's what's happened for State here. And I like it. I like seeing State, go to this thing. We talked about it on the production. I would love to see this be more of like a tournament, of a round robin kind of thing. Maybe you don't get State and Ole Miss playing each other, but you add another team to the mix with Ole Miss. And so you have State. I threw out Arizona State. So you have State, Texas Tech on Tuesday, along with Ole Miss and Arizona State, and then you flip that around on Wednesday. I mean, that would be really cool, I think.
It'd be a lot of fun.
Oh.
Hey, by the way, before you go, Borky, I screwed that up. I was one day ahead. Southern Miss has got Tulane tonight in Hattiesburg, and then they hit the road on the bus early. I knew that there was another midweek game. I just got a day off. My bad on that. Borky, go ahead.
Looking at that last night, and then it reminded me of what happened the day before COVID shut down sports, was when you were out one day, Richard, we had just an offshoot conversation of, is your town an Ole Miss or a State town? And we get people, Brandon, mostly Mississippi State, Madison, mostly Ole Miss, and on across the state. Every message we got from the coast, and it was a lot of them, was some variation of, it's neither. It's an LSU town. Or it's like 20%, 20%, 20%, 5-5-5. One guy even went as far to say, it doesn't feel like I'm in Mississippi. It just feels like I'm in eastern Louisiana. Should the schools, specifically Ole Miss and State, because Hattiesburg's not far from the coast,
right? They
get Mardi Gras off. They have Mardi Gras break at Southern Miss. Should they be doing more to engage the coast crowd? Because it's a high population area in this state, for one. It's growing. Economically seems pretty sound. And there's obviously fans there that can't just get in the car and go see a baseball game, even on weekends. It's a different trip from Jackson to Starkville and Oxford than Biloxi or Ocean Springs or Long Beach or wherever to Oxford or Starkville for baseball. You can make a day trip from Jackson. You can't do a day trip from the coast. So should the schools be doing more, one, to change that narrative, which I believe is true, but also to kind of throw a bone to the people down there, because they can't just go to baseball games whenever they want. It's hard for them to go to football games.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, County Line Road to Swayze's 2 hours and 10 minutes. Lakeland Drive to Duty Noble is maybe just a shade under 2 hours. You can go and come back. Long day, but you can go and come back. You're talking 5 hours from Gulfport, 5.5 from Ocean Springs to Oxford. What is it? Maybe 4.5, 4:45 to Starkville. It's a haul. Let's keep this conversation going. We were talking before the break about whether or not baseball, in particular, is a route to more exposure on the Gulf Coast for Mississippi State and for Ole Miss. We've seen Mississippi State fans in, 2 of the last 3 years? Yeah, 2 of the last 3 years play midweek games against Texas Tech, and we've seen great crowds. Great crowds at MGM Park for those Mississippi State games. I was told, and I don't know if it's next year or the following year, that there is a plan in place for Ole Miss to play a couple of games at MGM Park on the coast as well. And it makes a lot of sense. But to take your idea, hey, to add a step farther, just with a little midweek series where you bring in a total of 4 teams, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and then 2 other name brand teams. And to use your example, you had Arizona State and Texas Tech?
Yeah.
So maybe on Tuesday night, Mississippi State plays Texas Tech, Ole Miss plays Arizona State, and then on Wednesday you flip it around. Aaron says, what if you make it a 3-day weekend event? It could be a Mississippi Classic style with Ole Miss, Southern Miss, and Mississippi State against 3 other schools. So perhaps you brought in the state of Louisiana and kind of like the old Winn-Dixie Showdown.
Winn-Dixie Showdown, yeah. That's
where you go LSU, Tulane, and Louisiana, and then you kind of play a round robin.
That'd be a great tournament.
With the two sides. 2 of those would be a non-conference SEC game because Ole Miss and Mississippi State would play LSU in a game that didn't count in the SEC standings.
Right, but that's what they used to do anyway.
Yeah, you could do it with teams from Texas. You know, maybe one year you bring in Texas A&M, and Texas Tech, or Baylor, or
bring in Alabama, Auburn, and South Alabama. Do Florida State, Miami. You could do all sorts of things.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of cool ways to do it. You got to get everybody to agree, and it could be a really cool baseball atmosphere, baseball environment. And I don't know if it's something where you do it, you set it up and you do it every year.
See, I would take it a step beyond just baseball. I don't think baseball is going to cure the issues. I mean, we get a text here. Somebody says even as far as the Pine Belt, people on the coast feel like they're being ignored. And, yeah, they'll do the little road trip stop where they'll get the coach to give a rah-rah speech to a ballroom of 100 people or whatever who can afford a $60 plate. And that's great. Like, they should do that. I think it shouldn't just be baseball. I think you should throw athletic department bones at the coast because it's ripe for the taking. You've got fans down there. It's a growing population. It's good economically, and it's so far from your campus, you can take advantage of some windows of opportunity like basketball in the winter.
Why would you punish these people by making them watch basketball?
Well, true.
You're trying to grow the fan base, Borky.
People...
You're just piling
people
on
in Jackson
now.
Won't like this, but Ole Miss and Mississippi State already have a stronghold in Jackson. They already do. Play your basketball game in December on the coast.
State should play a coast game, and they should play a South Haven game up at the Landers Center. They should do it every year.
I know Ole Miss has done that in the past as well, but, I mean, this is kind of an extreme idea. I would take spring practice to the coast, if you could, logistically. Or even a couple days of training camp in the fall.
You feel like you'd have to start spring practice before spring break so that you have something going on there.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting thought.
I would extend it beyond just baseball. I would engage the people down there as much as I can. Because, no, they can't come to Wednesday basketball games, but they can go to one in December when you're playing Troy or whoever. Instead of doing it in Jackson where you already have a stronghold, do it on the coast. If you hold an open practice in the middle of March or the middle of April at whatever facility you need down there, and you've got a family that, you know, they love Ole Miss or they love Mississippi State, but, you know, we just can't go to games. But little Timmy gets to see Jackson Dart throw a football in person, gets to see Will Rogers throw a football in person. And after that, Dad, please, can we go to a game this year? It's harder to fall in love with something that you can't see in person.